Welcome to Narrative Writing, Part 3, Installment number 2. Today we're going to talk about boring versus detailed. And we're going to look at some examples of writing, and I want you to see that there is a difference between the first example and the second, and that difference is the amount of details the author has put in there for the reader. So keep in mind when you are writing a narrative that you want to show, not tell. So you want to have details that are so vivid and clear that the reader is able to imagine and have imagery of what you are talking about and see the actual scene, setting, characters for themselves. So I'm going to read this example to you. I want you to go ahead and create a document in Classroom under this assignment in which you can take notes about the differences that you see. So if you want, you can listen through the first time and then go back and create the document and make notes. You can, if you are interested, make the notes now and sync this in the background and listen and take notes at the same time. You are also able to read it and take notes if you don't want to listen to the video as well. So any of those options work. You can watch this multiple times, whatever you need, but you should be taking notes about the differences between the first story and the second story. So here's an example of a narrative telling what happened. This is our first story. When I was in the 8th grade in 1957, an airplane crashed on the gym field of my school, Pacoima Junior High. This happened because of a mid-air collision between two airplanes. One plane went down in the hills, the other at my school. 8 people died. 5 of the people were in the airplanes. 3 were students. Around 75 students were injured. 1 boy lost his leg. Many were badly burned. It was report card day, and one injured boy said that he didn't think he would be in trouble for his bad grades because his mother would be happy he had survived. I thought about the kids who did not survive and what their parents would feel. I decided I would never separate from people I cared about without some good words of goodbye. There's our first example. Clearly they give a narrative, they describe what happened. Not a whole lot of detail. It's sequential, it works, but not a whole lot of detail. So let's look and see what happens when we add some detail. So here is again the same story. They are just adding a few more details to it. So it's rewritten to show what happened, including those vivid details. So, one bright but chilly January morning in 1957, I ambled across the campus at Pacoima Junior High School, killing time, stalling on my way back from the restroom to class. It was report card day, and I, like most 8th graders, felt relieved that the fall semester had come to a close, and something new would get underway. New teachers, new kids to meet, new assignments to ignore. My class was near the gym in a row of low-slung, drably painted buildings that were symptomatic of 1950s public architecture. I ran to the corner, giving me a direct view of the gym field, where, since no one had a dress for PE classes that day, only a few people were out playing. I saw no girls on the field at all, just boys playing kickball, softball, and generally hanging out. Even with this first paragraph, you can see there's already a lot more details. I can visualize what exactly is happening. They took a sentence and they made it into an entire paragraph that is now totally clear as to exactly what is happening during this scene. Let's see how they go on. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream, a whine of deep intensity came out of the sunny sky. I looked up, confused, and heard a blistering boom. An explosion so loud that the fence in front of the field began to wave, to undulate. I stopped. The sky filled with dark smoke, in bits of pink and green fragments of insulation one might find in walls or packaging. I thought, oh, confetti. The silence that followed lasted for a few timeless moments. Unreal. The moment was shattered by the passing bell, and kids began to stream out of classes. Emergency bells began to sound, and kids went back into classes for the drop drill routine that made me wonder why the Russians would bomb an obscure junior high in the north of San Fernando Valley. Again, taking that 2 planes colliding and adding a ton of details and showing, not telling, so that we get the idea of what exactly is happening. You almost feel like you're there. Next, an all-clear bell rang. Then things changed quickly. Injured kids came off the field, dazed and hurt and seeking help. Mothers who lived nearby raced between the buildings and across the quad, shouting and crying in a crazed effort to find their kids. Small airplanes buzzed overhead. Cops flooded the campus. Fire trucks and ambulances circled the school, seeking close entry to the destruction on the field. I recall being herded into the school library, relieved to find a space where an orderly mood prevailed, even as parents met up with their children and students waited for instructions about what to do. One boy came in with oil and blood spattered on his clothing. Again, taking that idea of it's a little chaotic and really expanding upon it, stretching out, adding that imagery in those details so you get a clear picture of what is going on. He seemed unhurt. He smiled and said, "Well, I won't get punished for my report card. My mom will just be so happy I'm alive." 8 people died that day. 3 of them were students. Another 70 or so kids were injured. One kid on the field survived because a PE teacher grabbed a towel from the gym shower room and staunched the blood pouring out of his severed leg. 2 boys died on the field. One died 2 days later in the hospital. I sat at a table in the library and remember having breakfast with my family that morning. Did any of those dead kids have hard words with their families that morning? Did any parent fail to kiss a kid goodbye? I vowed in that library on January 6, 1957, that I would never leave a loved one with words that, were they my last words, I would forever regret. Again, taking that idea of the report card and stretching upon that, taking the idea that he would never leave without saying goodbye, expanding them on the survivors and the people who were casualties of this horrific crash. So there was a huge difference between just showing what happened, telling what happened, and then showing, right, what happened. And when you show what happens, you allow the reader to imagine it themselves, make it feel like they are almost there. So what you need to do is now write the differences between the 2 stories. What differences did you notice? What made the second one better than the first one? And then keep those things in mind so that when you start writing your own narratives that you are showing, not telling.